Hi guys, and welcome to another Artmaster Studio tutorial. In this video I will be showing you how to paint a Napoleonic Portuguese line infantryman. The figure we're using is from Perry Miniatures. I've already primed the figure with a matte black spray primer. We're starting by base coating the jacket using Vallejo Night Blue. This is a fairly dark blue that works well for various Napoleonic blue jackets. This figure will represent the 4th line infantry, so we'll have a blue collar and turnbacks. Make sure you get in between any strap where the jacket is still visible. Next we'll base coat the flesh with Vallejo Flesh Base. We'll add shading later with a wash. We'll use Vallejo Dark Rust to base coat the wood on the gun. For his trousers we're using Vallejo Light Mud for a warm off-white look. They would have worn blue generally, but in the summer it was common for white trousers to be worn. For the water bottle we'll use Army Painter Wolf Grey. This is a nice blue grey that we'll wash over later for shading. Any metal we'll use Army Painter Gunmetal. This paint has a great consistency. Sometimes I find metallics to be a bit grainy or thick, but this one is quite smooth, which is nice. The blanket roll will be grey, so I'm using Vallejo German Grey. It's a bit darker than Vallejo Dark Grey. For the bag, plume and straps we'll use Vallejo Medium Sea Grey. Vallejo Light Grey would also work and is a tiny bit lighter. You might want to switch to a smaller brush for the straps, as it's important for them to be as neat as possible. The cuffs will be Vallejo Red. The cockade will also be quilted red and blue. This is one of my favourite distinctive parts of the Portuguese uniform. We'll paint the water bottle strap in Vallejo Leather Belt. Next up we'll use Army Painter Greedy Gold for the belt buckle, shako badge and buttons. I then add some dark rust to the bottom of the shoes. Now it's time for stage 2, shading and highlighting. We'll start by adding shading to the gold and flesh with Games Workshop Agrax Earth Shade. We'll also add shading to the gunmetal and sides of the blanket roll with Games Workshop Nuln Oil. This will give a bit more definition to the way it's rolled and make highlighting a bit easier. And the last wash we'll use is Army Painter Quick Shade Blue Tone on the water bottle. We'll highlight the jacket with Vallejo Imperial Blue, layer the paint on the raised areas of cloth to accentuate the folds. We'll do the same technique on the blanket roll with Vallejo Basalt Grey. If there isn't many interesting folds on the cloth, you can be a bit creative and add some yourself. There isn't any harm with doing things like that, it's all personal preference. Some people prefer a flatter look to their models and some people prefer a more stylized look. My tastes differ depending on the scale of the model as well as the subject matter. There are no hard and fast rules. We'll be highlighting the trousers in Vallejo Bone White. When painting Napoleonics you will often notice a specific style to the trousers and the way that they are made. There will be obvious seams on the front and sides of the trousers that you can take advantage of by leaving a thin line of the base coat showing. It differs depending on the style and cut of the trousers, so pay attention to the way it's sculpted. We'll highlight the bag and plume with Vallejo Sky Grey. This colour also works over Vallejo Light Grey. I decided to highlight the gun strap as it's a larger strap, but generally I only give straps a single highlight. I'm highlighting the shoe soles and wood with Vallejo Leather Belt. By now the Agrax Earth Shade should be dry enough to highlight over, so I'm using Vallejo Flesh Base for the first highlight on the flesh. Concentrate on the nose, cheekbones, ears, etc., leaving a small amount of the previous layer showing. The eyelids are fairly prominent on this figure, so I picked those out. The shade from the wash will act as our guide. Next we'll highlight the black areas such as cartridge box, shako and shoes with Vallejo German Grey. We used this colour earlier on the blanket roll. This is another area where I take liberties with my brush strokes, putting shade where there wouldn't necessarily be any because those areas are generally flatter surfaces, but I think it makes the figure look more interesting to look at. We'll add a quick highlight to the water bottle with Army Painter Wolf Grey. I highlight the blanket roll a second time with Vallejo London Grey. Unfortunately, there isn't enough contrast here. You will sometimes find that paints will differ slightly with different batches of paint. London Grey usually shows up fine over Basalt Grey, but this particular paint was from a darker batch. We'll amend that later. For the second highlight on the jacket, we'll mix some Vallejo Prussian Blue with Imperial Blue. We'll add a quick highlight to the cuffs and cockade with Vallejo Dark Vermilion. The second flesh highlight will be Vallejo Flat Flesh mixed with Flesh Base with a roughly 50-50 mix. You may notice some of these paints say Panzer Aces or Model Colour or Game Colour on them. These are all different ranges of Vallejo paint. Focus the paint on the nose and cheekbones on the face and the knuckles on the hands. The lip will be Games Workshop Tusk or Fur. It's a small detail but makes all the difference. As it is, the black areas are looking a bit dark, so we'll highlight them with Vallejo Basalt Grey. As a quick tip, if you're not a fan of this look, you can wash over the first highlight of German Grey with the Army Painter Quick Shade Blue Tone instead. This gives a much darker look and works surprisingly well for black. Try it yourself. And here is where I lighten the blanket roll a bit by mixing some medium sea grey with basalt grey. I also highlight the gold with some polished gold. Time to highlight the bag, plume and straps with Vallejo Off-White. Try not to leave too much of the base coat showing on the straps. Try to avoid doing too many lines as well. We'll use off-white on the piping on the collar and cuffs, and turnbacks and front of the jacket. I make a bit of a mess on the cuffs, but it's easily tidied up with some black. The second trouser highlight will be Vallejo Ivory. Focus the paint on the upper parts of each fold of cloth. It's a little hard to see in this light, so apologies for that. Pop the eyes in with a few dots. I did a bit better than the last tutorial video here, but they still need a little bit of tidying up off camera. So there we have the finished figure. You may notice I added a gold buckle on the gun strap as well as a button on the bag. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and found the tutorial useful. If you would like to commission us, you can email us at artmasterstudio@hotmail.co.uk or visit our website artmasterstudio.co.uk. There will be links in the description. I look forward to reading and replying to your comments. Hit the notification bell to keep up to date with future videos from us. In the meantime, you can check out our other tutorials at the end of this video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.